What's up, world? Now, this story that I'm about to bring you shows us just how far we still have to go as a country to try to get rid of racism or to separate ourselves from a racist past and really shoot a racist present because, let's say, racism and bigotry, this stuff is still going on today. I don't care what nobody says that since we had a black president, racism is dead. This is a bunch of baloney. Anyway, this story comes out of New Orleans and their local newspaper, I think it's called the Times Picayune newspaper. I hope I said that right. If I didn't, please forgive me. But the story is called Removal of the First of Four New Orleans Confederate Monuments Begins with Liberty Place. Now, the story states that at around 2 a.m. Monday morning on April 24th, efforts began to remove these one of four Confederate monuments in the city of New Orleans. Now, you're probably wondering why in the world they were removing a statue or anything at 2 a.m. in the morning. Well, this is because that there have been numerous threats, acts of violence towards anyone that they find out who are going to have any part in removing these Confederate monuments out of the city. And the threats were taken literally and seriously, so much that they had snipers that were stationed on the parking deck looking down at the monument while the dismantling of this monument was being done. To quote this story, two flatbed trucks arrived just before 2:15 a.m. carrying equipment to haul away the monument. The name of the company on the truck's side was concealed by tape and cardboard. The workers wore black vests, yellow helmets, and pieces of cloth to cover their faces, apparently to guard against identification. The dismantling of the monument was completed by 5:30 a.m. And the mayor of New Orleans, Mayor Mitch Landrieu, he called the Battle of Liberty Place monument the most offensive of the four that are up for removal. Quote, erected in 1891, it commemorates the Crescent City White League attempt to overthrow the city's Reconstructionist government after the Civil War. Its inscription held white supremacy in the South, but a new plaque covered the original and recognized Americans on both sides who lost their lives in the quote-unquote skirmish, end quote. And after all the safety concerns that came up after the announcement of the removal of the first monument, the mayor said that there will not be any public information released about the removal of the other three monuments due to the safety concerns. The mayor said that the removal of these monuments sends a clear and unequivocal message about New Orleans' focus on celebrating their diversity, inclusion, and tolerance. There was also a candlelight vigil of about 30 supporters around the monument during the removal of this, I guess, monument is what you want to call it, with also one man warning the workers to stay away from the monuments as if he was going to do something if they tried to remove them. And you can continue to read the story. I'll leave the link in the description box for you to click on and read it for yourself. But one of my questions first I want to say congratulations to New Orleans. I applaud you for trying to remove as many statues and buildings and names or anything else that has to do with the Confederacy and slavery and this despicable past of this country pertaining to dealing with black people in general. But I'm kind of wondering if this was not done for the love of black people, or maybe it was done for a monetary reason. Because if you read the story, it said that one company offered $600,000 to the city to remove the four monuments. but the city only has $170,000 in their budget for monument removal. So I just kind of wonder what was maybe the reason behind it. I'm hoping that it's to try to get rid of all this slave history in the city. Because understand, if you look at the history of the world, and when you have countries that battle each other, that have wars, when one country is trying to take over another, you can go all the way back to wars of the Bible. You can go back to the history of Egypt. You can just go back and look on the History Channel, and it'll show you when you see how these people, these excavators or whatever, be digging up these lands and find these lost and hidden cities under current cities. And there's like no history of these cities anywhere in any books. Well, that's because even in the Bible, it teaches you that when you destroy a city, you destroy everything. When there's a battle, when there's a civil war or whatever going on between two countries, and you destroy your enemy, you make plunder. It's even stories in the Bible. I can't think of what the war is, but it was time in the Bible where armies were told that you go into battle, the Most High guarantee a win, but you can't take anything out of there. You can't take any gold, you can't take any cattle, you can't take anything. You have to destroy everything, kill all the men, women, and children. You got to destroy destroy everything about this city or this town or whatever, this kingdom's existence. Because if you don't, it will come back to haunt you. And whoever went to battle, man, I wish I could think of it right now, but whoever went to battle, they did not kill the kids or what have you, and they kept some of the loot, the plunder, or whatever you want to call it. And generations on down the line, those same kids came back to capture and defeat their kids. So, like I said, this is an old strategy that goes back to the beginning of time, which means that during the Civil War, once the Civil War was over with, and the South had lost, anything from Confederate flags to Confederate uniforms to records of the generals and soldiers, anything that had to do with slavery in the South, all that stuff should have been destroyed. I mean, you had no problem at the time destroying records of all the slaves you took from Africa, and you tried to destroy them when you could, because you just tried to destroy them to destroy all our history and everything else. Had no problem with doing that, but when it looks like you, acts like you, talks like you, thinks like you have sympathy for them. Well, that's why 150 plus years later, we're still going through this about, the Confederate and slavery and, showing respect and homage to these people who pretty much try to keep an entire group of people, an entire race of people under bondage for monetary gain, and treat them like cattle and chattel and animals and less than human beings. We feel that there has to be a reason to keep this stuff in the history books. I have no problem wiping this stuff out of history books. I don't think it needs to be in there. I really do believe you need to destroy anything that has to do with that, because again, it divides the country. This supposedly great country, want to make this country great again. You want to make it great? Destroy all that stuff about slavery. Destroy that stuff about the Confederates. We don't need to know who the generals are. We don't need to pay homage to that army and those soldiers. Not at all. Just say, hey, there's a civil war. People wanted to keep slaves. The South lost. We destroyed everything. Everything about that movement was destroyed. Let's move on to bigger and better things. But no, you have these people who are still around, who still want to keep this racist ideology and thought process going on in this country. And until you can take away anything that they can fall back on, it's always going to be a part of this country's fabric. And I don't mean like deep fabric. I'm talking about the embroidered stuff that's on top that you can see. It's going to always be there. So much to the point that, as you can see in this story, you have people that threaten to harm and kill people if they try to take down monuments that praise a deplorable time in our country. Matter of fact, let me give you one more quick quote before I end this. In this article, it says it is unclear when the contract was awarded because the city has kept quiet about removal plans after prior attempts to secure a contractor were met with death threats. Those threats, including the discovery of a burned $200,000 Lamborghini, prompted the then contractor H&O Investments of Baton Rouge to quit the job in January of 2016. So again, yes, racism is still alive and kicking in the good old United States of America. Man, but will we ever get rid of it? Who knows? But I can surely tell you how we can start. And I'm going to try to find a way to do this too. And I think people should do this in their own cities. Try to find a way to where we can get all this historical stuff removed. New Orleans is doing it, whether it's about money. Shoot, if it takes money, then it needs to be some of our black leaders or rich black people need to go to these cities and say, hey, I want to remove all these monuments. Like I say, you give a person enough money, they'll pretty much turn their own mother in a heartbeat. And we know that we just know that. But anywho, with that said, I want to thank y'all again for tuning in. Subscribe, like, comment, share this page, these stories. Go to the description link. Find ways to help promote and to help support this channel and support the community. And until next time, peace.